ever looked at the calendar at the end of an incredibly busy, exhausting week and wondered where on earth all those precious hours actually went? Or if you accomplished anything of real, lasting value, Jake? It is a question that often keeps me up at night, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely, Emma. It's that bizarre, slightly frustrating feeling where you've been running around like a headless chicken all week, trying to do 50 things at once, yet when Friday evening rolls around, you feel like you have absolutely nothing of substance to show for your efforts. It can make you feel completely overwhelmed by the end of the week, to be honest.
Exactly. And that brings us directly to what we are diving into today, the concept of not wasting our lives and how we can make our limited time on this planet truly count. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all our intermediate and upper intermediate English learners joining us today. We want this to be an engaging and helpful session for all of you.
Yes, a very warm welcome to you all. It is a pretty heavy topic, isn't it? Don't waste your life. Sounds like a pretty dramatic, serious command. And honestly, it can feel a little intimidating or even guilt-inducing when you first hear it, especially if you're feeling a bit stuck. It can feel like a heavy weight hanging over your shoulders.
It really does. It sounds like someone is standing over you, shaking their finger at you, warning you to be highly productive every single second of the day, which is definitely not what we are advocating here today in this conversation. It is a very common topic of discussion in modern workplaces nowadays.
Right, because trying to be a productivity robot is actually a great way to burn out, which is another tragic, highly stressful form of wasting your life, if you ask me. We need a much healthier, more sustainable perspective on how we spend our energy. It really makes you stop and evaluate your daily priorities, doesn't it?
That is such a crucial distinction to make. Before we go any further, let's unpack that phrasal verb to burn out. It means to become completely exhausted, physically and mentally, especially from working too hard for too long, losing all your motivation and passion in the process. It is so easy to lose hours of your day without even realizing what happened.
Exactly, and we definitely want to avoid that state. For me, not wasting your life isn't about working yourself to the bone or constantly hustling. It is about living with intention and finding what I like to call alignment in everything you do. It is a very common trap that almost everyone falls into these days.
Living with intention. I really love that phrasing. Could you explain what you mean by living with alignment for our learners out there who might not have come across that phrase before, as it is quite a nice B2 to C1 level concept? We all need that time to rest, recuperate, and clear our minds.
Sure. When you are in alignment, it means your daily actions, the small things you do every single day, match up with your deep personal values and your long-term goals. You aren't just reacting to things around you, you are choosing your path. It's about finding that healthy balance that works for your unique lifestyle.
So if you value creativity, but you spend all your spare time mindlessly scrolling on social media, you are out of alignment, and that might eventually feel like you are wasting your life and your potential. It really makes you think about how we define productivity in our modern society.
Precisely. Mindless scrolling is the ultimate modern time sink, isn't it? We've all been there. Sitting on the couch, intending to check one quick thing, and suddenly 2 hours have vanished into thin air without us gaining any real value or happiness. We must learn to appreciate the present moment and make the most of it.
Oh, I am definitely guilty of that. That phrase, time sink, is wonderful. It refers to an activity that consumes a massive amount of time without giving you any real value, learning, or genuine joy in return. It just eats up your day. It is a very easy pattern to fall into without even realizing it is happening.
It really is a sink, like water draining away into nothingness. But here's an interesting question for you, Emma. Do you think resting or just doing nothing is always a waste of time? Or can it actually be a valuable part of life? It felt like I was just living on autopilot for years, to be honest.
I used to think so, especially when I was younger and constantly trying to climb the career ladder. But now I strongly believe that genuine, deliberate rest is absolutely vital for our mental well-being and is not a waste at all. That must have been a very eye-opening and sobering moment for you.
I couldn't agree more.
There is a massive fundamental difference between active rest, which recharges your mental batteries, and passive distraction, which actually leaves you feeling more depleted and exhausted than before you started. It is a very easy trap to fall into when your routine never changes.
That is a brilliant point. Active rest might be going for a walk in nature, reading a gripping novel, or meditating. Things that actively restore your mental, emotional, and physical energy levels and leave you feeling refreshed. We have to actively seek out new experiences to keep our minds active and engaged.
Exactly. Whereas passive distraction is more about numbing your brain, like watching random videos you don't even care about just to pass the time because you are simply too tired to do anything else productive or creative. Taking responsibility is the first major step toward making any real, lasting change.
Let's focus on that phrase, to pass the time. We use it when we want to make time go by, often because we are a bit bored. But it is actually very different from killing time, isn't it? It is what keeps us stuck in our comfort zones, even when we are unhappy.
Yes, killing time implies you have absolutely nothing better to do, and you are just waiting for something else to happen, which feels a bit tragic when you think about how incredibly limited and precious our lives really are. It is always better to try and fail than to live with the pain of regret.
It does feel a bit tragic when you put it that way. We only get a limited number of days on this earth, and yet we often live as if we have an infinite amount of time on our hands, postponing our dreams. It requires a leap of faith, but the rewards can be absolutely life-changing.
We really do. We tell ourselves, oh, I will start that exciting project next year, or I will travel when I finally retire. But there are absolutely no guarantees in this life. We have to make things happen now. You have to build up your confidence and momentum slowly over time.
That reminds me of a powerful concept I read about recently, the idea of drifting through life. Have you ever felt like you were just drifting, Jake, without any real sense of direction or purpose? We set ourselves up for failure by expecting too much too soon.
Oh, absolutely, Emma. I spent almost my entire 20s drifting. I was working a decent corporate job, but I had no clear direction, no real passion, and I was just going through the motions every single day. It is the small, daily habits that ultimately shape our entire lives.
Going through the motions, that's another fantastic idiom. It means doing something because you have to, or because it is a habit, but without any enthusiasm, energy, or real commitment. You are just acting, essentially. It is about the journey and the daily practice, not just the final goal.
That describes it perfectly. I woke up, went to work, came home, watched television, and did the exact same thing the next day. And suddenly 5 years had passed in the blink of an eye. It was really quite scary. It is amazing how much progress you can make with just a little consistency.
That sounds like a real wake-up call when you finally realized it. What was the specific catalyst or turning point that made you stop drifting and start living with more intention and drive? We exhaust ourselves trying to make everyone else happy at our own expense.
It was actually a very simple but jarring realization. I woke up on my 30th birthday, looked in the mirror, and realized that the last 5 years had felt like a single blur of a week because nothing meaningful had happened. You have to protect your time and energy like they are precious resources.
A blur of a week? Wow. That word blur is so expressive. It means something that is unclear or difficult to see. Or in this case, memories that have all run together, so you can't distinguish them from one another. It is not selfish to set limits. It is absolutely essential for your mental health.
Exactly. When every day is identical, your brain doesn't bother creating new memories, so time seems to speed up, which is a terrifying way to let your precious, unique life slip through your fingers without realizing it. It is a very polite and professional way to protect your schedule.
So, to stop drifting, we need to introduce novelty, challenges, and clear goals into our lives to create those distinct memory anchors, if that makes sense. We need to be active participants. It is a very common source of frustration and anxiety for many language learners.
Absolutely. It is about taking the steering wheel of your own life, rather than sitting in the passenger seat and letting circumstances dictate exactly where you end up. You have to drive.
We have to change our methods if we want to see different results in our progress.
That passenger seat metaphor is spot on, but taking the steering wheel can be incredibly scary because it means you are suddenly fully responsible for your own happiness, choices, and success in life. It makes the learning process feel like a heavy burden instead of an exciting adventure.
It is terrifying, Emma. It is much easier to blame your job, your boss, your parents, or even the economy for your lack of fulfillment than it is to admit that you are the one holding yourself back.
That brings us to a major barrier that stops people from living fully: the fear of failure. Many people stay in comfortable, uninspiring situations because they are afraid to take a risk and fail.
They really do. They prefer a familiar misery over an unfamiliar hope, which is a sad way to live because failure is actually an essential, beautiful part of any meaningful life. You have to risk it.
We often talk about failure as if it is the worst possible outcome, but surely the true worst-case scenario is looking back at your life with regret, wondering, what if I had tried?
Oh, without a doubt. Regret is a much heavier, more painful burden to carry than failure. If you try and fail, you learn, you grow, and you have a great story to tell. But if you never try, you are left with an empty void.
I couldn't agree more. Let's look at the idiom to take the plunge. It means to make a decision to do something difficult, scary, or risky after thinking about it for a long time.
That's a perfect idiom for this. Taking the plunge requires a brief moment of intense courage, like jumping into a cold swimming pool. But once you are in, you adjust quickly and feel amazing.
That's a great analogy. But how do we actually find that courage when we feel completely stuck? How can our listeners start making changes if they are in a deep rut right now?
The key is to start incredibly small. People often think they need to make massive, dramatic life changes overnight, but that is usually unsustainable and leads to immediate failure and frustration. We only see the end result and forget the years of quiet dedication.
Right, like deciding to suddenly wake up at 4 a.m, go to the gym for 2 hours, and completely change your diet all on the same Monday. It is just too much at once.
Exactly. You will last about 3 days before you collapse from exhaustion and go back to your old habits, feeling even more defeated than before. It is a classic trap we all fall into.
So instead of that extreme, unsustainable approach, what is a better way to build momentum? How can we introduce positive changes that actually stick over the long term?
You want to focus on micro habits, tiny actions that require almost no willpower to perform, but build up over time. For example, if you want to write a book, start by writing just 1 sentence a day.
1 sentence a day? That sounds almost too simple to be effective. But I suppose the magic is in the consistency rather than the volume of the work you do. It keeps the momentum alive.
Exactly. Once you are sitting down with your pen or keyboard, you will often write more. But even if you only write that 1 sentence, you are maintaining the identity of being a writer.
That is a very powerful psychological shift. You are proving to yourself through your actions that you are someone who moves toward their goals, rather than someone who just dreams about them.
Precisely. And that builds self-trust, which is the foundation of confidence. When you keep the promises you make to yourself, you start to believe that you are truly capable of changing your life.
I love that concept of self-trust. Another major obstacle to living intentionally is the tendency to say yes to everything and everyone, which leaves us with no time for ourselves.
Oh, people-pleasing is a massive time waster. We spend so much energy trying to live up to other people's expectations that we completely neglect our own desires, goals, and needs.
It really is. We say yes to social events we don't want to attend, extra projects at work we don't have capacity for, and suddenly our schedule is completely packed with obligations.
And when your schedule is full of other people's priorities, you are essentially living their lives, not your own, which is a very subtle but dangerous way to waste your precious time.
To combat this, we need to learn how to establish boundaries. Let's define that word, boundaries. In this context, it means the rules or limits we set to protect our time, energy, and mental health.
Setting boundaries is a superpower, Emma. It feels uncomfortable at first because you worry about letting people down, but saying no to the wrong things is the only way to say yes to the right things.
That is beautifully put. Saying no to a distraction is a direct investment in your own life. Do you have any practical tips on how to say no without sounding rude or selfish?
I find that honesty paired with brevity is always the best approach. You don't need to invent a massive, elaborate excuse. Just say, I would love to help, but I don't have the capacity right now. Simple and clean.
That is so elegant and professional. It doesn't leave room for argument, and it respects both your own time and the other person's. Let's talk about how this relates to learning English.
This is a massive point. Many of our listeners might feel like they are wasting their time because they've been studying English for years, but still don't feel completely fluent in conversations.
That is a very common frustration. They might feel like they are stuck on an intermediate plateau, working hard but not seeing any real, tangible progress in their speaking or listening skills.
Exactly. And the mistake they often make is studying in a passive, unengaging way, like memorizing long vocabulary lists or doing dry grammar exercises that they find incredibly boring and tedious.
That sounds like a surefire way to lose motivation. If studying English feels like a chore, you are much more likely to abandon it or do it half-heartedly, which wastes time.
It really is. To make your English learning feel alive and purposeful, you need to integrate it into your actual life, into the things you already care about deeply and enjoy doing anyway.
So instead of treating English as a separate academic subject, we should use it as a tool to explore our interests, whether that is cooking, business, history, or podcasts like this one.
Exactly. If you love gardening, watch English gardening videos. If you are passionate about personal development, read self-help books in English. That way, the language becomes a vehicle, not a chore.
That shift from seeing English as a subject to seeing it as a vehicle is absolutely life-changing. It makes the learning process natural, engaging, and highly effective.
It really does. You are no longer wasting time trying to force dry grammar rules into your brain. You are absorbing the language naturally while actually enjoying your life and expanding your mind.
Let's touch on the phrase half-heartedly, which I used earlier. It means doing something without effort, enthusiasm, or energy, which is how many people approach their goals.
Yes, and half-hearted effort always yields half-hearted results. If you are going to do something, dive in head first. Give it your full attention, even if it is only for 15 minutes a day.
That reminds me of the concept of deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It is incredibly rare and valuable in today's world.
It really is a rare skill now. We are constantly interrupted by notifications, emails, and messages, which fractures our attention and prevents us from achieving a state of deep, satisfying flow.
That word fractures is very descriptive. It means to break or split into fragments. When our attention is fractured, we can't think deeply or produce our best work.
Exactly. So if you want to learn English or write that book or build a business, you have to create a distraction-free environment, even if it is just for a short block of time.
That is such a practical piece of advice. Turn off your phone, close your browser tabs, and just focus on one single task. It sounds simple, but it is incredibly difficult in practice.
It is very difficult because our brains are literally addicted to those little dopamine hits we get from new notifications. We have to train our minds to tolerate boredom again and focus.
That is a fascinating perspective. Tolerance for boredom is actually a crucial life skill because any long-term project or goal will inevitably involve some repetitive, boring stages.
Absolutely. Every creative project, every career path, and indeed every language learning journey has moments that are just tedious. There is no way around it. You just have to push through.
Let's look at that word tedious. It means boring, repetitive, and taking too long. It is the perfect word to describe those moments when you are practicing verb tenses or writing outlines.
But those tedious moments are exactly where the magic happens. That is where you build the foundation, the muscle memory, and the deep understanding that eventually looks like effortless talent.
So, when we look at successful people and assume they never had to struggle with boredom or failure, we are only seeing the tip of the iceberg of their journey.
Oh, definitely. We see the shiny, finished product and we think, wow, they are so lucky. But we don't see the years of quiet, invisible daily effort that went into that success.
That is such an important reminder. Success is rarely a sudden stroke of luck. It is almost always the result of small, intentional daily choices, accumulated over years.
Exactly. It's the decision to read a book instead of watching television, or the choice to practice speaking English for 10 minutes instead of playing a mobile game.
When you look at it that way, every single day is a series of tiny crossroads, and the direction of your life is determined by which path you choose to take in those quiet moments.
That is a beautiful way to frame it, Emma. You don't have to wait for some grand, dramatic moment to change your life. You can choose to change it right now, in this very second.
That is incredibly empowering, Jake. It takes away the excuse of waiting for the perfect time, because the perfect time simply does not exist. There is only right now.
Precisely. The idea that there is a perfect time in the future is just a clever illusion our mind uses to keep us comfortable and safe in our current, predictable routine.
So, if there is a project you've been putting off, a conversation you've been avoiding, or a language skill you've been neglecting, the best time to start is today.
Absolutely. Don't wait until you feel ready, because you will never truly feel ready. Action creates the confidence, not the other way around. You just have to begin.
That is such an important truth. Action precedes confidence. We often get it backward, waiting to feel confident before we take action, and as a result, we remain stuck in place.
We really do. But once you take that first clumsy step, the momentum starts to build, and before you know it, you are running in the direction of your dreams and goals.
That is an incredibly inspiring thought to keep in mind. I hope our listeners feel encouraged to take a small, intentional step today, no matter how small or clumsy it might feel.
I really hope so too. Remember, your life is made of the minutes you are living right now, so cherish them, use them wisely, and do not let them drift away in passive distraction.
That is the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation today, Jake. And thank you to all our lovely listeners for spending your precious time with us.
It has been an absolute pleasure, Emma. Keep learning, keep growing. And to all our listeners out there, make today count and never waste a single drop of your beautiful life.